Hi everyone, so today we're going to be working on Chapter 8, Section 8, Factoring a Polynomial Completely. We are on page 530 in the textbook. So the first thing we're going to do is our homework review. So yesterday we were doing factoring by grouping. So for this problem you have 12x cubed plus 3x squared plus 20x plus 5. Now you have to break it up into two separate problems. So we're going to do 12x cubed and 3x squared and 20x plus 5. So the first thing we're going to work with the left hand side, so the pink box. So the greatest common factor between these two terms is 3x squared, and then we're going to factor it. So when we factor it, it's 3x squared times 4x plus 1. And now we're going to work on factoring the right hand side. The greatest common factor between them is 5. And the factored form is 5 times 4x plus 1. Now we have what's matching inside our sets of parentheses. So our 4x plus 1 and 4x plus 1. We rewrite one of those 4x plus 1 at the bottom. And then we group our 3x squared and the 5 together. So we get 3x squared plus 5. So our final answer is 4x plus 1 times 3x squared plus 5. So then we have this over here in number 2. 8t cubed plus 36t squared plus 2t plus 9. Same thing, we're going to break it into two separate problems. And we're going to find the greatest common factor between 8t cubed and 36t squared. The greatest common factor is 4t squared. And now we need to go ahead and factor it. When we do that, we get 4t squared times 2t plus 9 as our final answer. And now we need to find the greatest common factor between 2t and 9. The greatest common factor is 1 here, right? It can't be 2. So we do 1 times 2t plus 9. 2t plus 9, 2t plus 9. We rewrite one of them, so we have 2t plus 9 at the bottom, and then we group the 4t squared and the 1 together, and we get 4t squared plus 1. So our final answer is 2t squared plus 9 times 2t squared plus 1. I'm sorry, 2t squared plus 9 times 4t squared plus 1. That is our final answer. In number 3, we have 21x cubed minus 28x squared minus 6x plus 8. Break it up into two separate problems. Find the greatest common factor of what's on the left-hand side, and our greatest common factor between 21x cubed and 28x squared is 7x squared. So that's our greatest common factor. And then we factor it out. So we have 7t squared times 3x minus 4. And then we got to find the greatest common factor between negative 6x and 8. Remember, when it's minus plus, assume the greatest common factor would be negative. So greatest common factor is negative 2. And our factored form is negative 2 times 3x minus 4. We go ahead and group them together. 3x minus 4, 3x minus 4. Rewrite it only once. We have 3x minus 4. And then we're going to group 7x squared and negative 2 together. So we get 7x squared minus 2. So our final answer here is 3x minus 4 times 7x squared minus 2. So here we have 9m cubed minus 6m squared plus 12m minus 8. Same thing, we're going to group it into two different sets. We have 9m cubed minus 6m squared, and then 12m minus 8. Let's find the greatest common factor of the left-hand side, and that's 3m squared. And our factored form is 3m squared times 3m minus 2. And the greatest common factor between 12m and 8 is 4. Factor it out, and we get 4 times 3m minus 2. Our parentheses match. So we rewrite this at the bottom, 3m minus 2, and then we group 3m squared and 4 together. So our final answer is 3m minus 2 times 3m squared plus 4. So now we're going to practice factoring a polynomial completely. This is a little different. So before factoring by grouping, which is what we did over here, you may need to factor out the greatest common factor of all the terms. So basically what's going to happen when you have this type of problem is each and every single term, or each and every term in the problem, is going to have a variable attached to it. So we have 4x to the fourth minus 8x to the third plus 12x squared minus 24x. So all the terms have an x in it. The greatest common factor is 4x. So we're going to factor out the 4x. And then once we factor out this 4x, now we got to get all these, we're going to figure out how did we get all those terms. Well, if we do 4x, how are we going to 4x squared back? 4x times x cubed. How do we get 8x cubed back? 4x times 2x squared. How do we get 12x back? 4x times 3x. And how do we get 24x back? 4x times 6. So this right here is our factored form. So this, what's in yellow, what I've just highlighted, we can use factor by grouping to factor that out. So now we can use factor by grouping here. And whatever you have on the outside, once you factor out the greatest common factor, put it in a box, put it on the side, highlight it, do something with it, star it, do something so that way, because we're going to come back to this in the very last step. So we need to use factor by grouping here. So we have x cubed minus 2x plus 3x minus 6. So break it up into two separate boxes. What's the greatest common factor between x cubed and minus 2x squared? The greatest common factor here is x squared. So now we got to put it into factored form, and that's x squared times x minus 2. And then we got to find the greatest common factor between 3x and negative 6. Greatest common factor is 3. So our factored form is 3 times x minus 2. We have our two sets of parentheses that are identical, so we rewrite that once. So we have x minus 2. And then we group x squared and the 3 together, so we have x squared plus 3. And remember how I told you this 4x up here in this red box, we were coming back to it. We're now just going to rewrite this down with our answer, because our final answer is 4x times x minus 2 times x squared plus 3. If we FOILed this right here out, we would get what I highlighted up here in yellow. And then to get this answer back, we would have to multiply it by 4x. So we have 6x to the fourth plus 9x cubed plus 12x squared plus 18x. All the terms have an x in it. The greatest common factor is 3x. So we're going to factor out our 3x and then put our factored form. So it's 3x times 2x cubed plus 3x squared plus 4x plus 6. If we multiply 3x times each of these terms in the parenthesis, we would get this back as our final answer. So highlight it in yellow. We're going to use factor by grouping here. And remember, I told you box this, do something with it, so we know we have to come back to it at the very last step. So we're going to do factor by grouping for what's in yellow. Break it up into two separate boxes. The greatest common factor between 2x cubed and 3x squared is x squared, and the factored form is x squared times 2x plus 3. And the greatest common factor between 4x and 6 is 2, and the factored form is 2 times 2x plus 3. We have these that match, so now we write 2x plus 3 at the bottom. Group our x squared and 2 together, so we get x squared plus 2. And then remember, I told you we have that 3x at the top. We got to put it down with the final answer at the bottom, because remember, once again, if we FOIL this, we get what's in yellow, and then we got to take that answer and multiply it by 3x to get this back in the end. So your final answer is 3x times 2x plus 3 times x squared plus 2.